101 residents present, and so the chair will declare the special town meeting in order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Gentlemen, please remove your hats unless you are a veteran, in which case you can remain covered and render the hand salute throughout the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Before we begin with the first article, the chair is in receipt of brief comments on two of the articles by a town resident and registered voter, Vincent K. Ritchie, who could not attend this meeting this evening, but asked if it would be possible that his comments be read. The chair rules that the comments be read, and it is so ordered. After Article 1 and Article 10 are moved and seconded, under discussion, the comments will be read. Also, the chair is in receipt of a presentation by Mr. Thomas Robinson, and the request was made whether or not that could be projected, and the chair has ruled that that also can be projected. So with that said, at this point, let's begin. I'm sorry, yes.
I feel bad. Can I fix the flags? They're not in correct order. This is America, so we have... Here.
That is, thank you. Article 1, exemption of town-owned administrative buildings from firearm prohibited areas. To see if the town will vote to exempt the following town administrative buildings or offices from being classified as a prohibited area for the possession of firearms under the provisions of Section 124 of Chapter 135 of the Acts of 2024 as outlined in General Law Chapter 269, Section 10K2, or take any other action related thereto. And the offices or buildings are identified, and you all should have a copy of the warrant as the Slade Building, the Fire Station, Department of Public Works Garage, the library, and 48 Gardner Road. At this point, motion made by Mr. Walker, seconded by Mrs. Young for the passage of Article 1. And is there any discussion? Under discussion, Mr. Ritchie had a comment on Article 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I am unable to attend tonight's meeting, so I respectfully submit the following comments for consideration regarding the proposal to allow firearms to be carried in town-owned administrative buildings. I have been a responsible gun owner for over 50 years. I'm not opposed to lawfully licensed, responsible gun owners carrying weapons. It is, however, not prudent, in fact foolish, for the town to permit guns to be allowed on the premises of the Slade Building. The proximity of the Slade Building to the center school, where hundreds of our young children assemble each day to learn and play, is too close for the town to allow firearms to be present. Should a tragedy with a firearm occur, the consequences to our families and community would be devastating. Further, in this day and age where blame and penalties know no bounds, the town should not sanction a policy that would put our children into harm's way, regardless of how remote the possibility, nor expose the town to any legal liabilities that would result by allowing firearms in the Slade Building. If the Slade Building can be deleted from this list, I would strongly urge it. If not, then I would oppose the entire article and ask that it be defeated. Thank you, Vincent K. Ritchie, 1 Ed Clark Road, Hubbardston. So we start off with his comments. Any discussion as far as Article 1? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Bella Caldera of 12 Simon Hill Road, and for many years I've been one of your constables.
Please proceed.
A constable is, unlike the gentleman in the blue uniforms with the badge, is an officer of the peace. And I have done my best, to fulfill all the tasks assorted to me in this role. However, I'm also a gun owner, and my collection is primary history, because I'm also the captain of your local colonial reenactor militia, and fully authorized by the Office of the Adjutant General of the Massachusetts National Guard and the town. However, the idea of bringing firearms concealed into public buildings is, to me, absurd. We want our town clerk, we want the executive assistant and the administrator and everyone in there to do their jobs in confidence, without fear. What would happen if somebody carrying, decides to contest with the tax assessor about their tax rate? No, I mean, people are too often irrational and prone to emotional flux that makes them make poor decisions. So I would urge you all to vote against this. I know that for people who do feel the need to carry, and in the 28 years I've been in this town, only rarely have I needed strong language, more than strong language, and I'm your constable. I realize there is this notion that someone is carrying their firearm and they have to secure it before they can go into a prohibited area. This would ordinarily take 30 seconds. You put a trigger lock on the firearm and you put it in a secure place in your vehicle, and that's all you need to do. There's no reason for anyone to carry a firearm into the Slade Building or the public library, or I could maybe see a reason for the fire department on some rare occasion. After all, it is the fire department. I thank you. I think I've expressed my opinion, which echoes Vince Ritchie's.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm Susan Rain, 10 Williamsville Road.
Please proceed.
Some of you may be aware of Chapter 135 of the Acts of 2024, which includes a new state firearms law. Among its provisions, the law contains new strategies for combating untraceable ghost guns, expands the red flag law that allows a court to take a gun away from someone considered a threat to themselves or others, and adds schools, polling places, and government buildings to the list of areas where state law forbids people from carrying firearms. This last provision, however, permits municipalities to allow firearms in its administrative buildings if approved by its legislative body. This law was approved by overwhelming supermajority of the House and Senate and signed into law this past July. Before this law was passed, per our town policy, anyone except our town employees could come into our town buildings armed. This was the status quo. Did everyone here already know that? You do now. Here in Hubbardston, our legislative body is town meeting, and we have before us Article 1, which asks us to give a blank check to residents and others, including town employees, to bring firearms into our town's administrative buildings, to restore and amp up the status quo. Let's dig deeper. Let's start by a review of the buildings this article addresses: the library, the Slade Building, Firehouse 1, the DPW building, and now the 48 Gardner Road building. All would allow firearms in. I wonder, why is Firehouse 1 considered an administrative building? Isn't it an emergency response building? Do you seniors know that the senior center is an administrative function in the Slade Building? Did you parents know that the library is an administrative building, whether or not the town offices stay in its basement? What about our tenants currently occupying part of 48 Gardner Road? I also note how close the library and the Slade building are to the school, and I wonder, would either of them be seen to be on school grounds as opposed to something else? Bullets do not obey boundary lines. Next, what are firearms? Massachusetts defines a firearm as a stun gun, a pistol, a revolver, a rifle, a shotgun, a sawed-off shotgun, a large capacity firearm, an assault-style firearm, and a machine gun. A large capacity firearm is a firearm with the capacity to accept more than 10 rounds of ammunition or more than 5 shotgun shells. Assault weapons are banned in Massachusetts, but machine guns are not. To lawfully possess a firearm in Massachusetts, you must be licensed, and concealed carry is permitted. As of 2022, according to Fox Channel 25 News, 1,018 Hubbardston residents held large capacity firearms licenses, and 2 had machine gun licenses. As of 2023, our population was 4,312. Registered voters totaled 3,440. We are all registered voters here. If you look to your left and to your right, one of you has a large capacity firearms license. I did not hear a rationale for this article at the public hearing 2 weeks ago, but I did hear the then only criminals will have the guns argument. I wonder, how will our police officers know the difference between a good guy with a gun and a bad guy with a gun when both are firing? I also learned at that hearing that some of our own volunteers, civilians, not police, have been coming to meetings armed because before this new law was passed, our town policy was that anyone except a town employee could come into our administrative buildings armed. Think about that. If our volunteers feel the need to come to meetings packing heat, then let's examine why that is. If threats have been made, then law enforcement and our criminal justice system must be involved, if for no other reason than to protect our town employees. The town should require a police detail or engage private security and purchase screening technology to be used during business hours as well as at public meetings. But if no threats have been made, then what exactly is this about? I wonder, will this article serve to raise the town's insurance premiums? Would we be seen as having increased our own risk of gun violence by our carrier due to our explicit consent? And what about your own criminal and civil liability as a would-be good guy with a gun? Unless you are in your own home, the laws of self-defense in Massachusetts require retreat. So while your home may be your castle, these buildings are most certainly not. And the town isn't going to pay for your defense lawyer, status quo or not. I learned at the public hearing that Hubbardston is one of the first, if not the first, of our cities and towns to look to exempt its administrative buildings from this new law. If this article passes, I wonder, will our homeowners' premiums increase? I wonder what people considering a move to Hubbardston will think, because I wonder if we will be an outlier. I wonder if I will feel more safe or less safe when I attend a public hearing, not knowing whose ox is being gored on any given matter and who is armed and who is not. In a town that struggles to attract volunteers to its boards and committees, I wonder whether this will help or hurt that effort. And I wonder why we feel the need to be the tip of the spear on this and what it says about us as a community and as individuals. I wonder if we are fools rushing in where angels fear to tread. The only public hearing on this article was only 2 weeks ago, and fewer than 30 people attended. Our town council told us that because the law is so new, there are no regulations or court decisions to guide us as to its interpretation. We are feeling our way, and this is why all of my questions have gone unanswered. We deserve a lot more discussion, debate, and thought on this article, which exempts entire buildings that have uses other than purely administrative and occupants other than government administrators before we decide which way to go. We made more of a fuss over buying 48 Gardner Road. A no vote tonight means at the very least that tonight we want more information, more discussion, and more time to make a reasoned decision. Because bullets know no boundary lines, and knee-jerk reactions to new gun laws in either direction won't stop them. Please vote no.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alice Livedall, 96 Mount Jefferson Road.
Please proceed.
State law, let's make this clear, state law presently prohibits firearms in municipal administrative buildings, as in schools and courthouses. But our select board tonight put this warrant article on asking us to override state law and allow guns to be carried openly and concealed into the library, senior center, town offices, and meeting rooms. Why? Do you feel unsafe in the Goddard Library or in the Slade Building? Would you feel safer if you walked in and saw a person carrying a gun or knowing that he or she might be carrying a concealed weapon? I wouldn't. If this article passes, how will it affect the town? Will people think twice about walking in to pay their tax bill in person, or coming into the senior center, or bringing their child to story hour in the library, or working for the town, or serving on boards and committees? We don't know if they would, because the select board did not bother to ask. They didn't conduct a survey. Think, what sign would you rather see posted at the entrance to our library and Slade Building? A sign that says, firearms are prohibited by state law, or firearms are permitted, enter at your own risk? We'll have to post one or the other. If you fail to warn a visitor that firearms may be present, not giving them the choice of whether to enter or not, and the visitor is shot or killed, the liability to the town would be enormous, especially since the visitor could reasonably assume that guns were forbidden by state law, as would be the case in the other 251 cities and towns in Massachusetts. Would such a warning sign make visitors feel more or less safe, more or less welcome in town, I ask you? The state gun law passed overwhelmingly. 67% of the public in Massachusetts support excluding guns from government buildings. Gun safety is a serious issue. In an average year in Massachusetts, 255 people are killed by guns and another 688 are wounded by guns. 500,000 people in Massachusetts hold gun licenses. Over 115,000 guns are purchased yearly in the state. A license to carry is no guarantee that the gun owner is a responsible person, any more than having a driver's license guarantees the person is a safe driver. I'm sure a few gun owners in town feel the need to carry a gun at all times and in all places, but for every one of them, there are dozens of citizens who would not feel safe entering the library or the Slade Building, knowing someone inside might be armed. The Select Board did not really care to seek public opinion on this issue. They held the required public hearing on this article at the very last minute, the day before the warrant was closed, the eve of November 4th, Election Day. They publicized that hearing by a robocall that did not come up as Hubbardston on caller ID. Not surprisingly, about 24 people showed up for the hearing. For tonight's meeting, they mailed a postcard a few days ago with a date, time, place, and a QR code if you wanted any further information. And one robocall was made at 3:40 this afternoon. That's the publicity they gave this article. Contrast that with the extensive publicity they gave for the special town meeting a couple months ago. on the proposed municipal building, which included multiple information sessions, mailed information to every household, robocall reminders, identified as Hubbardston as the caller, and the town has conducted citizen surveys in the past. When I was chair of the planning board and we were debating the town master plan, a survey was sent to every house. They could have done that, but they didn't. Why? The select board was not. How many people, as a result of their publicity of the municipal building, showed up at the town meeting? Over 300. How many people are here tonight? 100. So I ask you, if the select board's not willing to take these steps to see what the citizens believe, and instead hold a last-minute, a special town meeting with an unpublicized message with an issue as important as this, I would at least ask that they table it tonight and bring it to the annual town meeting, where the attendance could be expected to be 2 or 3 times what it is tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. State your point of information, please.
My point of information is, Ms. Livedall, I respectfully acknowledge that there is no way to change the caller ID function of our rave system, so there is respectfully no way that one call came in from Town of Hubbardston versus another call coming in not from Town of Hubbardston. I don't know if certain phones have certain numbers saved, but they're within the system. There is no way to change it. Admittedly, the 48 Gardner Road project was driven by my office and the Public Safety Building Committee, in which it was purposely really promoted. This, not that it is any less important, is not something that I, as town administrator, was instructed to or really aiming to promote outside of being part of the annual town meeting. So to say that the select board and or my office did anything other than what we were supposed to do and legally obligated to do is beyond incorrect. So I hope that we can have an open conversation tonight. I hope nobody feels that the town, the select board, or my office as the town administrator feels like we were hiding anything or not sending out the information, because that could not be further from the truth. I am always very transparent. I aim for sending out the utmost information at all times, and just want to make sure that we will be doing that with each and every town meeting and matter of importance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Mike Foley, Mr. Moderator, Mike Foley, 12 Pitcherville Road.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Benjamin Franklin once said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Now, the point being is what we are voting on today is to maintain the status quo that has been the way it's been going for many years. The people that, I hate to put it this way, but the people that we should be scared of are the people that do not have a license to carry, because they don't follow the law. People who have a license to carry have gone through background checks. It's much more than a driver's license. You actually have to sit down and meet the chief, and he gets to say one way or the other whether or not that application is going to move forward. So there are at least some levels of checks and balances. So while I respect the opinions of the people that have already spoken, I have to say that there are dissenting opinions. There are bigger issues here. And while, yes, Hubbardston may be the tip of the spear in this particular thing, Hubbardston is known for being Second Amendment friendly. The Second Amendment is what protects our First Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, My name is Connie Stripmatter, 98 Old Westminster Road.
Please proceed.
I'm currently the chair of the Library Trustees. And on behalf of the trustees, I would like to propose that the library at 7 Main Street, Unit 8, be removed from Article 1 of the town warrant. While we realize that the library is recognized as an administrative building, we propose an amendment to the warrant to exclude the library from the list of exempted buildings. This amendment would prohibit firearms in the library. The Board of Library Trustees recommends the library be removed in order to provide a firearm-free environment for the children, teens, and students visiting the library. In addition to being the public library for the town, our library also serves as the Hubbardston Center School's library and has programming spaces for children and teens. These programs include story times that happen multiple times a week, Dungeons and Dragons game night, Boy Scout meetings in the libraries that occur several times a month. And in October, these numbers total 90 additional visits by children and teens. Libraries are spaces dedicated to learning, community, and dialogue. Prohibiting firearms reinforces the library's role as a neutral and peaceful venue for education and collaboration. Advocating for firearms prohibition in the library is not about infringing on individual rights, but about creating an environment where everyone, regardless of background or perspective, feels secure and welcome. This policy reflects the library's role as a cornerstone of safety, learning, and community connection. This will be especially true when the building will only house the library when the town offices move to 48 Gardner Road. We feel that removing the library from Article 1 is appropriate, and we appreciate having the opportunity for the town to weigh in this thought. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed any further, under the bylaws, Section 5, the chair requests that all amendments be reduced to writing. The town clerk is going to give you a piece of paper unless you already have it written out.
Can I give you what I've read?
Perhaps something
Briefer?
even briefer than that. That'll be fine. Just give it the blank one, please. Okay. So you're making the motion, and just jot down what you want to do, and that is to strike the library from the list of, yes, please. Thank you. And as she is writing down that brief amendment, is there a second to the amendment? There is a second to the amendment. Thank you. So the motion to amend, according to the town bylaws, is known as a subsidiary motion, and debate time is limited to 10 minutes. No person to speak more than 3 minutes, nor more, excuse me, nor more than twice. So just so that everyone understands, Madam Clerk, if you can start. Yes. So I move to amend by removing the library from Article 1 of the warrant. Thank you. And now, if you can just begin. Is there any debate on the motion to amend only? Any debate on the motion to amend only? Mr. Robinson?
Hello, my name's Tom Robinson, 5 Brigham Street.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Could you just explain a little bit about how this is going to work?
Okay.
For instance, if there are multiple amendments to the same article, can you just run us through that?
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Of course. So for every amendment, the clock starts anew. So once a motion to amend is made and seconded, then the chair will direct the clerk to start the clock, and according to town bylaws, section 17F, a motion to amend is one of those subsidiary motions. The debate on the motion is limited to 10 minutes. Okay, so it's 10 minutes, and no person shall speak for more than 3. Okay, that's every motion to amend. So we have this one, we have 12, we have 1,200. Yikes! It's going to be the same procedure for each one. Okay? That gentleman in the back. And again, this is addressing the motion to amend.
Robert Fagundes, 148 New Westminster Road.
Please proceed.
If the motion to amend goes through and is passed, is there a way to veto it later on tonight if further discussion, the town or town citizens wish to have the entire bill either for or against? So say it's amended so that it's not included as an administrative building, but later on, the town residents wish to have it included in whatever the decision might be. Is there a way to veto it towards the end? Or is this, once it's one of these buildings is removed, is it never brought back in?
So the gentleman is essentially addressing whether or not it were reconsidered. And if it were to be reconsidered, let me see, when a motion, so Section 10 of the town bylaws, when a motion to reconsider is decided, that decision shall not be reconsidered. So the chair's reading is one bite at the apple, one motion to reconsider, yay or nay, okay? So does that make sense? So if it is passed, let's say that the amendment is passed, you have to vote on the prevailing side in order to move its reconsideration.
Okay.
Okay? If that passes, and that would require a majority vote as far as reconsideration, that is done once. So it's not a merry-go-round of moving to reconsider. At that point, if the motion to reconsider fails, then the amendment stands. If the motion to reconsider passes, then we are going to be considering the amendment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Again, further discussion as far as the amendment. Okay. Yes, sir.
Todd Fitzgerald, 15 Elfrey Road.
Please proceed.
Just briefly, I respect the opinions of the library folks, but it seems to me that that would just open the door for a Slade personnel person to say, I want our building exempt, and so on, and that would kill the whole discussion. So I think by exempt one building, it's going to open the door for everybody else. So I don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on the amendment? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road.
Please proceed.
I appreciate everybody's opinion. I hope that they will reciprocate and appreciate mine. One of the things that I note is that the state seemed to make a point of allowing the towns to decide this issue. They did not impose it statewide. They inserted this special exception. And therefore, regardless of what the numbers are statewide, the state apparently thought that it should be left up to the towns and made this an exception in the law that we could vote on. And that I would hope that the town carefully considers all points of view and votes as a town and not as the state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Any further discussion on the amendment? Excuse me just for one moment. Okay. Having conferred with the legal counsel, just so that everyone understands, Section 8 of the town bylaws state No vote of the meeting shall be reconsidered unless notice of intention to ask for reconsideration shall have been given within 1 hour after the vote to which such notice relates has been passed. When a motion for reconsideration is decided, that decision shall not be reconsidered, and no question shall be reconsidered more than once, nor shall any vote be reconsidered on a motion to adjourn, to lay on the table, or for the previous question. Such motion to reconsider must be offered by a voter on the prevailing side. So, FYI, okay? All right, any further discussion on the amendment? Sir.
Paul Sweeney, 40 Williamsville Road.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I must be lost someplace. I don't understand why we need to carry firearms and be okay to carry firearms into any of the buildings in town. So I want to know why this came about. You can't carry your firearms into any of the buildings after this Massachusetts law?
Not to anyone here. It has to be through the chair, and the discussion has to be on the amendment as far as the library only.
Oh, just on the library? Well, that's a good thing. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, I'm Bella Caldera, 12 Simondale Road. We
Please
seem to
proceed.
be entering a world where there is a significant proportion of people who are more afraid of books than they are of guns. I'm not afraid of books. I am very cautious and wary with guns, and I own them.
Okay.
No, let's keep the library sacrosanct. It is actually an educational institution. It's part of the school.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? Any further discussion on the amendment? Yes, sir.
Robert Fagundes, 148 New Westminster Road.
Please
Mr.
proceed.
Moderator,
Yes, sir.
up until this most recent emergency law was passed by the governor, and was it legal to carry a firearm in any of these buildings?
Chair is going to defer to legal counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yes, it's our understanding that the town of Hubbardston, except for the policy that was noted earlier that pertains to employees only, did not have its own policies for any of these buildings with regard to firearms possession. Therefore, before this law was passed, Chapter 135 of the Acts of 2024, these were not prohibited places according to state law.
So prior to this, it was not illegal to carry a firearm in any of these administrative buildings?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right? Correct. Yes. Yes.
My next statement or question includes the library because it's the entire article. I spent 16 years in public safety. I most recently retired medically from the Massachusetts State Police. And I was an instructor, a trainer for active shooter response, alert classes, ALICE classes. We go in and we teach teachers, we teach office building employees on how to respond during any type of active killing, active shooting, or any type of incident which would be an emergency where you need to lock down, basically, right? All of the statistics that we always taught off of showed that the only time that there was an incident, it's when the criminal who was carrying the firearm illegally, 9 times out of 10, was hitting a soft target. And I'll explain what a soft target is. It's a target in which the criminal doesn't believe he's going to have anybody fight him back. He's not going to go in there and attack a hard target. He's not going to hit the bank for a robbery if he knows there's armed security out front. It's not like the movies in real life. They only ever attack where they believe they will be successful. And this is where it comes down to the unknown. And I believe the unknown is on our side. If you don't know somebody's carrying a gun, and they're legally carrying the gun, they are not a threat because they're doing the right thing by concealing the firearm. They are not the criminal. This comes down to, as well, in situations I have encountered professionally where the guy who's carrying the gun who wants to do harm, he's going to do it, and he's going to try to get the most amount of harm, right? Especially these active killing situations. The news calls them active shooter situations. Shooting's what we do when we go to the range for target practice, right? It's called killing. That's the guy's intent. He's going into these locations, or she, or whoever it may be, specifically to cause harm, okay? I'm watching the clock, 3 minutes, I get it. If we remove just 1 or 2 or 3 of the buildings from this article and only pass it in some of these articles, bad guy doesn't care. It's illegal to murder, right? It's illegal to just go stab somebody. It's illegal to do those things initially before it even comes to the point where I'm carrying a gun because I'm licensed to carry, and now I can't do it in a town building. And I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to lock it up in my car, in my lockbox with a combo, only I know. Bad guy doesn't care about any of that. If he has ill intent, he's going to do it on the soft target. In 2010, U.S. Supreme Court 7th Circuit out of Chicago case, McDonald versus the City of Chicago. Chicago tried to limit the ability to carry firearms in certain parts of the city due to whatever high crime occurring in parks and this and that. It was shot down by the 7th Circuit Appellate Court, being unconstitutional under the Second Amendment of the United States of America. And it states any municipality. It's not just Chicago, it's the federal government speaking here. So if we go forward with this, restricting us, we are also being unconstitutional. And it's still out for argument, this emergency law that got passed is more likely than not also unconstitutional.
Thank you.
I don't think I have any, I might have forgot something, but I don't think I have another time to come up.
Thank you. Thanks very much. We've exceeded the 10 minutes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have exceeded the 10 minutes for debate on the amendment. At this point, the chair is going to call for a vote on the amendment. Again, the amendment is to remove the library from the list of prohibited buildings. Okay? And that has been duly seconded. All in favor of the amendment? Again, removing the library from the list of prohibited buildings, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower your cards. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Please lower your card. The chair is in doubt. If we can have the counter, Dr. Stoddard, please. So Bella, if you can take care of this section here. Yes. Here's the counter. Okay. Very good. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your card. Keep your card raised, please. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Please lower your cards. Those opposed, please signify by raising your cards, and please keep them raised as the counters take the count. Doctor. Thank you. You may lower your cards. Hold on to it, please. The results of the vote are as follows. There are 47 in the affirmative, 48 in the negative, and the amendment fails. Any further discussion? Any further discussion?
Chris Gilio, Simon Hill Road.
Please proceed.
I would like a recount, seeing that the two people that were counting, okay, were on the, I'd like it split so it's even. Person up for, person that's against. Thank you.
There's no provision. Okay. We'll have a recount. If we can have the counters back again, please. Okay. So again, this is on the amendment, and all in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your card, and please keep it raised until the counters have reported to the chair. Thank you. Please lower your cards.
25.
Thank you. Please. Okay, thank you. Those opposed to the amendment, please signify by raising your card, and please keep them raised. You have everyone?
25.
Please lower your cards. Did you get them as well?
Yes, I did.
You did. Awesome.
First.
Thank you.
23.
Okay. Thank you. The result of the vote is as follows. There are 48 in the affirmative, there are 48 in the negative, and the amendment fails. At this point, is there any further discussion? Mr. Robinson.
Can you just clarify, Tom Robinson?
Yes, sir.
Could you clarify exactly what we're discussing right now?
So we are discussing Article 1 of the warrant, just Article 1. Did you want to come forward with your presentation?
Give me 1 minute.
Of course. Any further discussion as Mr. Robinson is getting ready?
Tom Robinson, 5 Brigham Street.
Please proceed.
Thank you. The town has a violence prevention policy. A couple of pages long. I'll just read a part of it that's important. There's a section on weapons. The purpose of the policy is to avoid violence in the workplace. And it says possession or use of a firearm is prohibited whether or not the employee is licensed to carry a firearm or has a firearm identification card. Use of other objects by employees, such as but not limited to pocket knives, razors, hammers, etc., or potentially dangerous, are also prohibited. So Possession or use by employees of firearms or other items are dangerous, and they're prohibited. I think regarding the state law, there's two concerns. One is the actual law that would promote gun safety and personnel safety and the safety of our children. The other part of it is the manner in which the law was passed. The manner in which the law was passed can be resolved by the future work done by some to bring this to a ballot question. But the fact that the actual law regarding gun safety today will save lives, I think, is pretty obvious. Massachusetts has the second lowest rate of gun violence in the United States. And it is because they have sensible laws and also sensible gun owners. The state law has been the focus of the discussion, but I'd like to point out there's also a federal law involved in this. Could we put up the first slide?
Before we proceed with the presentation, Mr. Robinson, just so that for the sake of the record, we have it very easy to follow as far as what the procedure is. At this point, would you like to present your motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. May I read it?
Well, can we put it up?
Sure. So to delete from Article 1 all buildings and grounds on Assessors Map 8A, Parcel 11, that is identified as the school, the library, the senior center, offices, the Slade Building, library office and library, sheds 1, 2, and 3, and the playground. Is there a second to the motion? Motion has been duly seconded. Please proceed.
Excuse me, Nate, could we bring it down so we need a bigger screen. We've established some conditions already. I don't think there's anyone in the room that agrees or disagrees with the concept that the school zone is gun-free. No one here is arguing that guns will be allowed in the schools. Our chief has written an email about this, and in that email, I identified the date and the time. Other than police officers, no one can carry a firearm on their person on school grounds. I asked myself, this isn't really part of this new state law. I asked myself, why is this? And I found the governing federal law, 18 U.S.C. 922Q, which reads in part, "It shall be unlawful for any individual to knowingly possess a firearm at a place that the individual knows or has a reasonable cause to believe is a school zone." So we got to ask ourselves, what's a school zone? Slide 2, please. As was listed, I'd like to delete from Article 1 all the buildings and grounds on Assessor's Map 8A, Parcel 11. That's along Main Street, go around the houses on the corner, down the side, past the playground, out in the back into the field, up the sideline, past the Purveyors, I believe, back to Main Street. It is the entire plot of this land. It is a school zone per federal law, and as such, guns are prohibited. The school zone encompasses the entire Parcel 11. The law is location-based and applies 24/7, 365. It is not a time-dependent law. Can't quite see that. Mr. Moderator?
I'm sorry.
All right. It's not time sensitive. In other words, summer vacations and all that stuff doesn't matter. It's in force all the time. Can I get the next? No, this is the next. Yeah, next slide. So what's a school zone? If you're driving on Route 68 and you're approaching the town, you see the big slow school. You see the signs by the side of the road that says, I better read my own copy because I can't see that far. 20 miles per hour school zone ahead. There's a speed sign. There's a crosswalk sign. slow school. These little signs with people walking on them are the school signage because they're carrying books. That's different than the regular crosswalk. Next slide, please. I screwed this sign up. I put the wrong picture in the front. If you look at the bottom picture, you'll see a post on the right that has the light and the sign and the speed just like the other one did. And the 4-foot-tall letters spelling out school on the road. If you go farther down the road towards Gardner, you'll see the end school zone. So clearly a zone that ends must have a beginning. Next slide, please. This is facing the school from the Gardner direction. We see one of these same signs with the solar-powered speed limit detector or speed detector and the school announcing the school zone. You go farther up past the school and you see the end school zone sign and resuming a speed limit appropriate for 68. Next slide, please. What is a school zone? The law includes the traffic. You can't go on a school bus with a gun. So transportation is included. The entire roadway surrounding the Slade building is considered transportation. I took these pictures of the school buses traveling through that route. They actually go all the way around the building. Next slide, please. So this is the Elm Street entrance to the school where there's a school sign saying Hubbardston Center School. My motion would be to delete from Article 1 all the buildings and grounds on Assessor's Map number 8, which are excuse me 1 minute. The school, the senior center, the office Slade building, the library offices in the basement of the library itself, the grounds to the property lines, and sheds 1, 2, and 3, and the playgrounds and play areas. My comments are that it's a school zone per a federal law. The state law discussion really isn't applicable. The school zone encompasses the entire parcel 11. There is no subdivision of that parcel, and the law is location-based and applies 24/7, 365, is not time-sensitive. Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Moderator.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, and that was 313, so if anyone is keeping track. Any further discussion, yes ma'am, of the amendment? So that, again, is Mr. Robinson's amendment to remove the school, the library, senior center, office, Slade building, library office and library, let me see, sheds 1, 2, and 3, and the playground.
Alice Livedall again, 96 Mount Jefferson Road.
Please proceed.
Through the moderator to town council. I think we need to have assurance here that if we pass this amendment tonight as it's written, it would not be a violation of federal law. And if he's not prepared to rule on that, I'm an attorney myself, I know that some of these things take time, then I would make a motion that this article be tabled until the annual town meeting, and it can be, where the legal opinion can be rendered.
Right, and at this point, even though you're not making the motion, the chair is going to notify town meeting that the motion to lay on the table at a special town meeting, according to bylaw section 17A, is not permitted. So that's out of order. Okay? All right. Go ahead, Councilor.
Mr. Chair, through you, do you want me to address the question from
Yes,
okay,
please.
thank you. Again, through you, Mr. Chair. I think that people are conflating things here a little bit, all right? The new law essentially makes what previously was not criminal conduct criminal by prohibiting firearms in certain administrative buildings. You're here this evening to exempt certain buildings from the reach of that statute. And the buildings that the board has put on the warrant are listed here. There's been a motion to amend. That motion's in front of the body. So beyond that, whatever federal law might say and what school zones, provide, or what the law is relative to school zones, again, I think that's being kind of conflated with what the meeting is here to discuss and decide this evening is what are going to be prohibited buildings within the town and what are not going to be when it comes to lawfully carrying and possessing a firearm.
So, thank you, Councilor. So, again, under the bylaw, for an amendment, you cannot speak to it more than twice. So, you want that second time?
Might as well.
Okay. All right. So that's 3 minutes, please. Go ahead, Mr.
Tom Robinson, 5 Brigham Street. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir.
I think I heard our town attorney say that the federal law doesn't matter. Would you care to clarify, does the federal law govern or not?
So I'll clarify. I believe you're citing to 18 U.S. Code, Section 922, subsection Q2A. Right. But subsection B of that, which subsection A, just to remind, says it shall be unlawful to carry, to possess a firearm in a school zone. Subsection B, subsection 2 notes, subsection A does not apply to the possession of a firearm if the individual possessing the firearm is licensed to do so by the state in which the school zone is located or a political subdivision of the state. So it creates an exception as a general matter, in my opinion, to the school zone prohibition for those who are licensed to possess a firearm lawfully in the state in which the school zone is located. It doesn't allow you to carry to carry a firearm or possess one in a school zone of a different state if you're not located in that state. But I just would like to note, for the sake of clarity, that there is this exception.
Thank you, Councilor. How much time does he have left? 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Did you reference Q? Tom Robinson, 5 Brigham Street. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Did you reference Q1B?
Mr. Moderator,
yes.
Through you. I'm just looking up Q2B. I believe you referenced Q2A.
The 2B does make exceptions. Originally, when this law was written, it defined a school zone as 1,000 feet from a school. They had to retreat from that after it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court asked them to redo the law. They redid it with 2 major changes. One was that they related it to interstate commerce so that the United States Congress could get the authority to make such a law. That was the original Supreme Court challenge. The second thing they did was they changed the boundary from 1,000 feet to, as I described in my motion or my slideshow, what a reasonable person would consider the school zone. And this B says there are exceptions. For instance, if private property is not part of the school grounds, this law doesn't apply. An individual possessing a firearm is licensed to do so by the state which the school zone is located, or a political subdivision of the state, and the law of the state or state or political subdivision requires that they have a license, etc. They go on and say the gun can be kept on the property if it's not loaded and locked in a container, and we've all talked about that tonight. An individual can use it for a program in the school zone if approved by the school. So yes, a gun can come into the school if it's approved by the school. I checked with the superintendent of schools, and there has been no permission granted for any gun on the school property, in fact, in the whole district, never mind just this school.
Okay. Are we at time? I'm sorry,
Well, I think your answer is wrong.
Okay.
And I'd like to have a official response.
Okay. So, yes.
I don't even know what to do there. That was
Okay.
the firefighters.
Okay, okay.
That was very much a active call to an emergency, and that's a text from one of the.
Okay. Okay, all right. Anything else that you need to, nothing else? Nothing else, okay. All right, thank you very much. We have, in fact, exceeded the 10 minutes as far as the discussion of the amendment. At this point, the chair is going to call a vote on Mr. Robinson's amendment, duly seconded, again, which would omit the school, the library, the senior center office, the Slade Building, library office and library, sheds 1, 2, and 3, and the playground. Okay? Everyone understand what you're going to be voting on? Yes? Okay. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the amendment fails. Thank you. Any further discussion on the article? Any further discussion on the article? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Bella Caldera of Simon Hill Road. Could the moderator satisfy my and perhaps others' curiosity? Apparently, this act of carrying a firearm into our public buildings has been completely legal up until recently. And could the moderator ask the assembled group as to how many people have actually ever felt the need to carry a firearm into one of these buildings? If no one has ever actually felt the need to do so, then this whole thing is a red herring we've been wasting our time on.
Thank you, but the chair is going to decline on that. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Yes, please.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Bracco, 28 High Street.
Please proceed.
I have a question for Town Council. If this does pass tonight, it goes to the Attorney General's office, and they will rule whether or not it's legal or not legal? That's a question.
Okay. Council, your choice.
Mr. Moderator, through you, this is actually not a bylaw that receives Attorney General's review. This is pursuant to the acceptance statute, Chapter 4, General Laws, Chapter 4, Section 4. It's simply a vote whether the town accepts or does not accept the provisions, and therefore doesn't receive any Attorney General review.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moderator, Jocelyn Deneen, 23 Cruise Road.
Please proceed.
Hearing words like tip of the spear, first town to go again, to bring this up at town meeting, and there was a reference in someone's earlier comments regarding liability. I'm just curious if we have a full understanding as a town, because there is no precedent to refer to at the moment, that if we do decriminalize carrying into municipal buildings, do we know what the impact is on our liability insurance as a town?
Thank you.
We do not.
There we go.
And could there be, do we acknowledge that there could be a potential impact, or do we defer to our previous precedent, which was that we did allow that. But now that behavior's been criminalized, so it does seem to me that it would potentially change.
I am uncertain on the impact that a decision made tonight would have on our liability insurance, either in the positive or negative. I know that when the law was signed a few months ago, there was no impact whatsoever. It was not a time period in which our liability insurance was really up for any
Consideration,
sort of impact,
sure.
and we have not heard from the
People can't hear me in the recording. So I am uncertain if there would be any impact in the positive or in the negative to our liability insurance as a town, but I can state that when it was signed a few months ago, there was no impact to our liability insurance, but it was not a time period in which there would be an appropriate impact. And we have not received our numbers for the FY26 fiscal year, but I cannot speak to that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? So again, we are discussing the warrant. Any further discussion for the first time? Go ahead, Mr. Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Tom Robinson, 5 Brigham Street. I don't like bringing up money in life and death issues, but the previous speaker mentioned insurance. And I think the people in this room need to understand that Massachusetts has the lowest societal cost of gun violence in the U.S. It costs each resident each year $503 to deal with the gun violence. Put that all together, though, and gun deaths and injuries cost Massachusetts $3.5 billion with a B each year, of which 85 is paid by taxpayers through the taxing system, but the balance of the money is paid by all the taxpayers through various insurances and mortgaging their homes and selling themselves to care for their injured relatives.
Thank you.
$3.5 billion.
Thank you. Further discussion? Further discussion for the first time? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see. You've already spoken, right, sir? You have not. I'm sorry. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Greg Magazoo, 10 Mare Meadow Lane.
Please proceed.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a lot of this conversation related to safety or not. The fact of the matter is, the gentleman earlier mentioned it. I've done a lot of research on this myself. Gun control laws don't make you safer because criminals don't worry about whether or not you have a public safety law in place. They don't care about the sign that's on the building. They're going to go there and do bad things if they want to, and they are most likely going to pick targets where they're unlikely to face opposition, right? And so this really isn't a question of making things safer by not allowing this. We aren't decriminalizing anything. We are keeping things the status quo. We have always been allowed to carry in these buildings, and there has never been an incident of somebody accidentally having their gun go off or anything like that. So this really is, it seems like we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. The fact of the matter is, even the lack of gun violence in Massachusetts and compared to the rest of the country is, most studies would show, related more to the affluence of this state than the gun control laws of this state. And so I just thought I would share that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? The chair hears none. All in, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Peter Walker, 25 Muscovy Ave.
Please proceed.
As most of you know, the Second Amendment was ratified by the framers of the Constitution on December 15, 1791. Now, since 1791, the citizens of Hubbardston have had the right to keep and bear arms. For 233 years, they've been going into these buildings with the ability to carry a firearm. And now, all of a sudden, they can't. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? The chair sees none. All in favor signify by raising your card. All in favor of Article 1. So this is Article 1. I move that the town vote to exempt the following town administrative buildings or offices from being classified as a prohibited area for the possession of firearms under the provisions of Section 124 of Chapter 135 of the Acts of 2024 as outlined in General Law Chapter 269, Section 10K2. That being the Slade Building, Fire Station Number 1, Department of Public Works Garage, the library, and 48 Gardner Road. Excuse me, and 48 Gardner Road. All in favor of Article 1, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower your card. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower your cards. Counters, please. Dr. Stouter will not accept when I ask him to serve as a counter in the future. All in favor of Article 1, please signify by raising your card. No, you're voting on the article. So the article exempting those buildings. Thank you. Okay. All right. We have to do a recount as far as this section only, please. If you are in favor of the article, please raise your card and keep your card raised. Thank you. Thank you. Please lower your cards. Those opposed to the article, please raise your card, and please keep your card raised. Please lower your cards. Thank you. Thank you. The results of the vote is as follows. There are 54 in the affirmative, 45 in the negative. The article passes. Article 2. Article 2. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to amend the town of Hubbardston's bylaws to include the following definition of an animal control officer in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 140, Section 136A through 174F, or take any other action relative thereto. And the town of Hubbardston animal control officer shall be defined as an appointed officer authorized to enforce Sections 136A to 174F of Chapter 140, inclusive of the general laws of the Commonwealth as defined in Section 136A of Chapter 140 of the general laws. I move that the town vote to amend the town of Hubbardston's bylaws to include the following definition of an animal control officer in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 140, Sections 136A to 174F. The Town of Hubbardston Animal Control Officer shall be defined as an appointed officer authorized to enforce Sections 136A to 174F of Chapter 140, inclusive of the general laws of the Commonwealth as defined in Section 136A of Chapter 140 of the general laws. This vote is going to require a 2/3 majority. Motion made by Mrs. Monroe, seconded by Mr. Perigo. Is there any discussion on the article? The chair hears none. All in favor of the article, please signify by raising your card. Okay. Why was it put on? Please lower your card. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the chair was informed that there was an error. This only requires a simple majority, not a 2/3 majority. The article passes. Article 3, this is 2/3, okay. The police cruiser replacement. To see if the town will vote to appropriate $65,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to purchase and equip a 2024 Chevy Blazer to be utilized as a new police cruiser for the police department, replacing the 2016 Chevy Impala currently used by the Chief of Police, or take any other action relative thereto. Okay, so I move that the town vote to appropriate $65,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to purchase and equip a new police cruiser for the police department, replacing the 2016 Chevy Impala currently used by the Chief of Police, or take any other action relative thereto. And again, this requires a 2/3 majority. Motion made by Mr. Williams, seconded by Mr. Walker. Any discussion on the article? The chair hears none. All in favor of the article, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. Please lower your card. Those opposed, please raise your card. Thank you very much, brave woman. And the article passes, thank you, with one opposed. Okay, Article 4, allocation for municipal optimization software. To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $20,000 for the purchase and implementation of software to enhance permitting, legislative management, constituent services, workflow automation systems, centralized e-licensing, and website redevelopment, or take any other action relative thereto. So the motion, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $20,000 from free cash for the purpose and implementation of municipal optimization software to enhance permitting, legislative management, constituent services, workflow automation systems, centralized e-licensing, and website redevelopment, or take any other action thereto. And this is going to be motion made by Ms. Young, seconded by Mrs. Monroe. Any discussion as far as Article 4? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Please lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Okay. We are now looking at Article 5, right? Article 5? Okay. All right, allocation for e-codification services. And the motion, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $13,500 from free cash for the implementation of e-codification services to modernize and streamline the town of Hubbardston's bylaws and regulations, or take any other action relative thereto. And this is going to be motion made by Mr. Perigo, seconded by Ms. Williams, Mr. Williams, excuse me. Any discussion on the article? Any discussion on the article? The chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 6, landfill testing and mowing reimbursement. I move that the town vote to transfer the amount of $5,290 from, and the funding source, free cash, for the purpose of funding the fall 2024 landfill testing and associated maintenance costs, including reimbursement for landfill mowing as required to ensure compliance with environmental regulations. And this is Article 6. A motion made by Mr. Walker, seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion on the article? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 7, transfer of DPW garage roof repair funds. I move that the town vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 33B, to transfer the remaining balance of $6,330 from the DPW garage roof repair account, thank you, for the purpose of fiscal year 25 Department of Public Works operations. This is Article 7, motion by Mrs. Monroe, seconded by Mr. Perego. Is there any discussion as far as the article? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. Article passes unanimously. Article 8, payment of prior year bills. So, the motion, I move that the town vote to transfer the amount of $2,257 from free cash for the purpose of paying outstanding bills from prior fiscal years as authorized under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 64, as outlined in the special town meeting warrant. And you have the list of bills that are outstanding. This is Article 8. 9/10 majority. Mr. William makes the motion, seconded by Mr. Walker. Is there any discussion as far as the article? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes unanimously. Article 9, plowing of private way, Plum Tree Lane. This is Article 9. Motion, I move that the town vote to transfer the amount of $2,800 from free cash for the purpose of funding the plowing of private ways accounts to ensure snow removal services on eligible private ways, specifically Plum Tree Lane, for the 2024-2025 winter season. And this is a motion made by Ms. Young, seconded by Mrs. Monroe. Any discussion on the article? Sir.
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Seth Myers, 170 Williamsville.
Please proceed.
Just curious about the plowing of private way, why it's not included in the rest of the plowing? Is this something that's been separate? And if so, is this a private residence? Who's responsible for it currently? And just, how do we define this? Who's doing the plowing, and how does the cost break down?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Administrator, go right ahead.
You had to ask. No, I'm kidding. But so this one is a little bit of a different situation. The town since at least 2012, maybe earlier than that, has had a private way plowing policy in which people who live on private ways, therefore not accepted by the community as a public way that is taken care of by the DPW with the general populace of the remainder of the roads, can apply to the select board meeting certain qualifications that basically seek funding for one reason or another. Without it being in front of me, those qualifications are with and the ability to safely operate a vehicle down them and public use. This issue here, Plumtree Lane, is a little bit of an anomaly outside of what is traditionally a kind of dull point where it's public versus private. We are currently digging into the ownership of the parcel that is Plumtree Lane because it does not meet what is a traditional private way where the abutters' property would abut each other, therefore adjoining them and making their land the said private way. This parcel is owned by a developer who is in arrears on back taxes since the year 2007. We do not know where this person is. We do not know their status, and we are looking into it. This also, due to turnover, pandemic, whatever we want to say, has been on the books being plowed by a outside contractor as part of the DPW's budget for at least 6 or 8 years. It would be, in my opinion, unfair here on November 19th to say, hey, you know what, Plumtree Lane, I know there are some variables here, but good luck to you. So that is a lot of where the select board is making the suggestion here that we move forward with 1 year to allow my office and town council and the office of the treasurer collector to look into what the actual qualifications here should be, who is actually responsible, and what the long-term goal is here for Plumtree Lane. If it comes to that we are going to treat them as a public way, they should begin as residents of said private way to make the type of improvements that Streeter Road did several years ago to then bring to this body to say, hey, we would like to be a public way, which makes it fair. Because in my opinion, both sides here are fair and acceptable. One side is saying, hey, I'm a public way. Why should these private ways get exactly what I get when we have to go through all this song and dance to maintain certain roadways and certain priorities? And the other side is, from a private way perspective, why aren't my taxes as good as their taxes? So both sides make sense, and that's where this policy comes from, because it can be a situation by situation deal. And I think that is where we are coming here. You will note a very different opinion from my office regarding the next article, because I do not believe it meets the same standards as something like Plumtree Way. But in the eyes of myself and only my opinion, it would be unfair to look Plumtree Lane residents in the eyes, at least this year, and say that we were not going to plow their road, at least for the upcoming winter season. In the future, I hope to have much more information and to be able to work with the residents who have been great thus far in working with us and getting the paperwork that we need. I'm hoping to have the DPW director, Travis Brown, work with the residents to ensure that it can be a easily plowed private way, at least to the largest extent possible. But with that, yes, the private public way plowing is a little bit confusing. It's a little bit convoluted. I am going to be reviewing the policy and making review recommendations to the select board at a later date, but it is something that we unfortunately will have to deal with at this time, and I hope that you will support this and allow us to look into it and give it our due diligence to solve this problem permanently in the future.
Okay. Thank you. So that was the Finance Board did recommend. Okay. Thank you. There apparently is a typo that the chair has just been made aware of, and that is for this article, the Finance Committee recommended passage, correct? Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. Any discussion as far as the article? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed, please signify by raising your cards. And the article passes unanimously. Article 10. Article 10, I move that the town vote to transfer the amount of $11,400 from free cash for the purpose of funding the plowing of private ways account to ensure snow removal services on eligible private ways, specifically Printers Brook Road, for the 2024-2027 winter seasons, a 3-year period. Motion by Mr. Prego, seconded by Mr. Williams on this article. And before proceeding to debate, this is the second article that Mr. Ritchie asked to be to have his comments read. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I apologize for not being able to attend the meeting in person. Please consider the following comments on this article. Printers Brook Road is not a road, it is a private driveway. All the residents that use Printers Brook Road own Form A lots which comply with the legal frontage required on Lombard Road. The town already plows their road. Printers Brook Road, so-called, is a private driveway used exclusively by the residents it serves. Printers Brook Road is not listed in the town of Hubbardston annual street listing available in the town clerk's office. All the residents thereon are officially listed on Lombard Road. In the town of Hubbardston, road inventory prepared by Planning Board Clerk Paul Flagg. We have volume 2, May 26, 1998, page 13, which formed the basis of Hubbardston's official map. Printers Brook is listed as common driveway off Lombard Road to dead end, 1996. Additionally, in a plan of lots prepared for original owners Leo F. and Rose A. McGanty by Zoc Surveyors in 1986, endorsed by the Hubbardston Planning Board and recorded in the Worcester Registry, I think that should be of deed, in Plan Book 551, Plan 42, the driveway is shown and labeled Private Drive Right-of-Way. At the bottom of said plan is the note that reads, the 25-foot wide right-of-way shown there, hereon shall at all times remain private and is not to be considered as a way, as that term is used in the subdivision control law. In conclusion, Printers Brook Road is a driveway. The town should not be plowing private driveways unless it is prepared to plow all of the private driveways in town. I respectfully request this article be defeated. Thank you. Vincent K. Ritchie, 1 Ed Clark Road. Any further discussion on the article? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. John Healy, 24 Lombard Road.
Please proceed.
Article 10, sir. I'm going to disagree with Mr. Ritchie about the private drive as opposed to a private way. By virtue of what we have there as an association that gives it the definition of a private way. The town solicited us for this article. We all complied. The applications, the deeds to the property, so we complied. Apparently, the town DPW director has looked at the road and found it in compliance. In other words, it could be plowed and sanded. And that's all we're asking to do. We're trying to facilitate emergency vehicles to the area in the case of the need. There are 3 veterans that live on that private way that don't derive anything from the town other than the fact that they're living in the town, but they did serve this country. The residents up there pay annually over $25,000 in taxes and derive nothing from them other than normal town services. I think this would not be a big issue for this to be plowed or whatever, considering the other article that passed, and I am not diminishing their plight either. I'd just like to see us have the same consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion? Any further? Yes, ma'am.
Susan Rain, 10 Williamsville Road. I just have a question. Did I misunderstand you to say, Town Administrator, that the lots that are the subject of this article have frontage on Lombard Road? So emergency vehicles can get to all of the residences via Lombard Road?
I cannot speak to that, but maybe Chief can.
Thank you. So, no.
No?
The driveway that the private road they use is the access to get to the houses that are in the back. Otherwise, we would have to walk from Lombard Road to the furthest properties, which would probably take some time.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Any further discussion? Sir.
Tony Lepori from 4 Ed Clark Road.
Please proceed.
I just have I'm not quite understanding. I know there are a lot of other, aren't there a lot of other private roads? Like, I think like Moosehorn Hill Road. I know that that's plowed privately and emergency vehicles go there. Like, why don't they get plowed from the town? Why don't others, how many are there? Are there a lot? And what's the difference here? Why are we voting on this one and not on those?
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Boudreau, go ahead.
So it is a question of process here. When we realized through the DPW that the town had not been meeting its end of the private plowing policy, which stated that every 3 years a town that wished to be plowed by the town must apply to be plowed by the town, we reached out to all of the private ways. There were not many of them. Some are seasonal lists. Without looking at it, because I don't have the internet capable right now, let's say 10. So we reached out. It was about 80 parcels. We sent out the mail. We ended up sending out a second mailer because there were some people that had noted that they lived on private ways and did not get it, so we sent out a whole second. The residents of Plumtree Lane and the residents of Printers Brook were the 2 streets or private ways that met the requirement as listed in the policy. That then went to the select board, who had the choice to send it to town meeting for funding or provide some sort of funding themselves at that time. As there is no additional funding in the DPW to plow any nor all private roads, the select board made the decision to send it here to be decided upon by this honest body tonight. So the opportunity is there for anyone that lives on a private road to gather their neighbors and submit their one-page application with a deed that are readily available on the internet and be considered at any time. To speak further than that, it is also, there's a laundry list for any private way to become a public way. It's a little bit more of a challenge, and I would personally rather bring something in front of Congress, but there is a avenue to do that. So in the policy as written can be found on the town website. There is also a news blast approximately 2 months ago that outlined how to get a private way considered in front of the select board and potentially in front of town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road.
Please proceed.
I'll get to the bottom line right off the bat, and then I have a question. But it seems that if we accept one, we should accept both. And I won't delay the reasons why I think that, but I do have a question. At the end of the policy, it says a list of eligible roads will be submitted to the Board of Selectmen by the DPW Director by the 1st of September of each year. Was Printers Brook Road on the DPW's list of private ways? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on the article? Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Slade, 28 Crossroad. I just had a question. I think I missed it. What was the status quo? What was going on last winter? To the moderator, or through the moderator.
Thank you.
The private residents took care of the private way every other winter up until this request, and if this request was shut down, they would be expected to do so again this winter. It is a struggle just as much as anybody has a struggle with their driveway, and people who live on private ways have a struggle with their private ways.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes. For the first time, Mrs. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Heather Monroe, 59 Grimes Road.
Please proceed.
I just want to add to the policy piece. So one of the things when we had discussed this as a board and this had come up, it was the idea that we were taxing an already overburdened budget of the DPWs to cover the cost of the road. And with the policy, we want to adhere to it. So the specific language of the policy, if I can read it, I stole Mike's phone so I could do this. Let's see, no plowing of private ways will be undertaken by the town unless town meeting approves such appropriation. So with these two roads, as Nate had previously stated, these two roads, all the residents on it met the requirements that the policy stated forward. And to give everyone an equal shot, we put this forward to town meeting because it too deserved the opportunity to go to the townspeople to decide whether or not the appropriation was there. You notice in the article there was two different years for the two roads. The policy specifically states that this is for a 3-year term. The first road, as Nate had previously described, was only 1 year because there's some things we're trying to work out and figure out on it. This second one is for 3 years. So that amount would cover the cost of the 3 years for the DPW to be able to plow, and that's what the budget would be for Travis to be able to pull from for private plowing and so forth for that road. If this passes, we won't see this article again for at least 3 years. Townspeople would still, or the residents on that road, assuming the policy stayed the same, would still have to comply and would still have to come back before town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Monroe. Please.
Susan Rain, 10 Williamsville.
Please proceed.
All right, so the Finance Committee voted in, recommended the prior article, right?
Yes.
Does not recommend this article.
That's correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Why?
Seth Knight, Chairman of the Finance Committee, through you, Mr. Moderator. Last Tuesday night, the Finance Committee held our meeting. We voted all the articles. This was the last article that was discussed. It was voted 0 to 5 against this article. Basically, it was a situation, as Mr. Moderator read from former Planning Board member Vincent Ritchie, explaining the outline, the history of the road or the private driveway, and that was our only concern at this time.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, sir. Any further discussion for the first time? Okay, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that.
I'll stay in line.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Deb Breed, 16 Streeter Road.
Please proceed.
I'm unclear as to whether or not this driveway meets our bylaws for what a private way really is considered.
Thank you. Mr. Boudreau?
In the determination by the DPW director, it met the qualifications as outlined in the policy. I cannot speak this evening directly right now to if it meets the qualifications of what would be defined as a private way. That is clearly something that is being brought into question with a variety of long-standing information pointing to both sides, one being that it is a private way of the community and one being that it is a private driveway. I wish I had a better answer for you here this evening, but I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. All set, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I think I've heard, I attend a number of the meetings. I went to the public hearing on this item. I heard it in a select board meeting prior to the public hearing. And one of the things, I appreciate Mr. Ritchie's opinion, but that's just a personal opinion. This appears to be a legal issue, and that if we do it for one and there's legal uncertainty on this, and we don't do it for the other, it appears that we're not treating our residents equally. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the article, please signify by raising your card. Thank you. You may lower them. Those opposed to the article, please signify by raising your card. And the article passes. You're all set? All set? Mr. Williams, you're all set? Yes. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the hour is 8:54, and the chair declares this special meeting adjourned. Dissolved, sorry. Dissolved.